All right, let me check the audio.
Those are Gambit picks. They still all died. It don't matter.
Testing. Testing. All right, cool. Let me plug this up. Probably need to back the camera up so you guys can see everything we're doing today. Or what we're starting at anyway. So guys, if you guys have been watching my channel for a while, I had built this miter saw cart probably about a year and a half ago. And it's based off of April Wilkerson's design, essentially just a folding wing for your miter saw. It can be folded up and it's really compact. I think it compresses down to about 30 inches. But then I added something, again, about a year and a half ago, and that was the expansion of my wings. Essentially, I did the same thing to one of my POC style benches, but adding a recess inside of my miter saw wings. I'm able to expand the capacity that each one of my miter saw itself has inside of my shop. And then I also used a POC style miter stop. It's a flip stop, so it works pretty good. You can lock it down and pretty much have a repeatable stop block. It's also able to slide over to the expansion portion of the wings or the extensions. So you can have a stop block and again, increase your capacity at your miter saw. I recently just did the upgrades on this wing, which was adding the T-track, these knobs, and then I changed out my original hardware. Originally I had this set up on a piano hinge, which was doing okay, but it wasn't really awesome. Pretty much it had a lot of wiggle. I think I'm gonna show you the other wing over there, then show you pretty much the difference between this side and the one over here, and show you guys what we're trying to tackle today. So I'm going to pan the camera over just a little bit so you can see both wings at the same time. This side is the original side of the miter saw. Well, I've already done the right side. This side hasn't been done yet, but as you guys can see, the piano hinge has too much play in it. Over here on this side, I upgraded to some of these shelf brackets. I had ordered these a little while ago. This took me a little while to finally get to actually doing the build, but these have significantly increased the rigidity of the wing. Over here on the right side, the actual cart itself will shake. Over here, again, it has so much play in it that if I was to put my T-track and stop block in there, it wouldn't be as accurate as that side is. And I kind of like how easily this one folds. I did also add the support shelf underneath here, so I can always, again, add extra stability to the wing outside of just relying on these brackets. But what we're going to be doing today is tackling that wing over there. This one needs to be taken off, and then we need to rebuild it, add some T-track to it, add a T-track to the top, and then we're pretty much going to go through that whole process. I'm going to show you guys how to route your own T-track and everything else. In the course of this live stream is the goal. I probably should put you guys over here. So the first thing we need to do is remove the miter saw wing itself. And that's held on with a couple of, I think I have some T15s holding that on. And where did I put the impact? There we go. And again, the piano hinges were fine for the most part. It again just had a little bit too much play for me. Alright, so the wing needs to come off. And then we're going to do some rebuilding on the inside of that. I'm also going to need to do a notch here. Add some plywood along here to actually extend it so I can receive the brackets. So I might as well go ahead and unscrew this now too. And I'll do all that cutouts at the same time. That one is a Phillips. Hey, how you doing? I appreciate you for joining. And again, piano hinges are okay, but probably not best for the main support for this type of miter saw. You know, especially if you wanted to be able to add a T-track. For just general support, I think it does just fine. But when it came to me wanting to add my T-track in here, I didn't want to do it until I can actually change out those brackets. That side is a lot stiffer. And you guys will see how awesome it is once I get this side done. I believe I remember most of the steps. I kind of just winged my process. But I have a lot of scraps and pieces already made up for it. And if we have time tonight, I'll show you guys how I make the flip stop and everything else too. Hey, how you doing? Thanks for joining in. There we go. So now we need to move over to the bench, remove the rest of this hardware. We can go ahead and notch out this wing now, and then we'll start disassembling the actual, I guess the main support wing. Let me think about the best place to put you guys. That should work. What are we building? We are working on. I had built this miter saw cart probably again about like a year and a half ago, and what made it special, it was pretty much an iteration of April Wilkerson's design of the folding miter saw cart, but I added this ability for the wings to actually slide in and out, so you can increase your cut capacity. And then this is a Ron Paulk style flip stop. So I like to use this for my miter saws and everything else. So the goal is to do the other wing. This one has new shelf supports, T-track and stuff added. And if you guys look over here, the original wing doesn't have the T-track and stuff. That glare is annoying. Go away. This one doesn't have that T-track support, so there's no way to actually lock it down when you extend it. So for me, adding my stop block, this wouldn't really work. And again, it had the piano hinges on it. So replacing the piano hinges, we're going to end up taking this apart, adding a T-track piece of 3/4 inch plywood to the side of this, and then pretty much reassembling the wing, remounting it, cutting in T-track for the top. Why is it glaring like that? I wonder if I turn... I'm not gonna lie, the glare since I added these lights, it only does it during the live stream, but it's really annoying. I wonder if that stops it. That's additional light from my fan I just cut off. So, nope, still glares. I thought I saw something major. We'll figure it out one day. Maybe it's the door. No, that just brings the door into the focus. Let's bring it over here. Well, the whole bench is white, so I guess it doesn't matter. Oh, these are the T15s. Alright. Let's save these screws and put them to the side. Close up the wing for now. Alright. Scratch all that over there. I don't remember what cutout I ended up doing for the wing. I think I ended up coming down 4.5 and 14.5. So we're going to measure over 14.5 and come down 4.5. Do I have a straight edge over here? I'm going to get the easy part out the way, and then we'll head over to the router table. Let's see, do I want to hit this with a circular saw? I guess this notch doesn't really matter. I'm probably just going to do this with a jigsaw. The circular saw's right here. Air Pro is important. Yeah, just a little bit. There's not really much I can do about the noise on the tools. Unfortunately, they don't have silencers. Here's my notched out wing piece. I'll take care and address this with the install coming up afterwards. The next thing we're going to do is disassemble our miter saw wing. And then we're going to head over to the router table to route the T-tracks. So how this one works, if I can catch it without a glare, is this is pieces of 2x4. These outer edges have a rabbet in them. And then this is just a series of 2x2s, like a frame section that slides in and out. I want to be able to add a T-track to it. And originally, I routed a T-track into these 2x4 material. It actually works out a lot better to route it into a piece of plywood than attach it to this 2x4 material. So the first thing I need to do is actually remove the inner assembly so I can actually go ahead and do that process. Square bit. To remove it's pretty easy. Just back out a couple screws. We're going to later remake this piece out of plywood. So that's going to change. And I need a star bit. Oh, no, those are Phillips. I remember thinking that yesterday. That's how you can tell how far back I made this. I'm using Phillips screws. And instead of building this out of plywood like I probably should have initially, I had a bunch of 2x4s around. So I ended up making it out of 2x. Silly me though. I know better than to use Phillips screws for anything. Hey, how you doing? I appreciate you for joining in. Alright, last screw is out. One thing I do want to do is go ahead and re-drive in the square head screws from this into this piece of plywood. Somewhere about here up front. There we go. And now I just need to tap this off. Where's my hammer? Up there. I didn't glue any of this in case I ever need to take this apart, but it does have a few pin nails. Those won't be a problem, but then the actual carriage comes completely out. And what we're going to end up doing is, instead of having screws holding in this 2x2 structure, we're going to end up taking a piece of plywood with a T-track routed in it on both sides, attaching it here, and then taking pieces of plywood with pilot holes to actually connect the whole entire sandwich assembly, and then we're going to slide it right back in. So the next thing we need to do is actually head over to the router table. I guess I could go and disassemble this all the way right now. Yeah, might as well. And these were Phillips. Man, it's so crazy that I did this whole thing with Phillips deck screws. Definitely lets me know I came a long way in the last year or so. Also, again, I built this probably about 1.5 years ago, and I was currently about to redo the wings and everything else. But I think great minds think alike. Tamar from 3x3 cut. These had came in for me probably about a week ago, maybe a week and a half ago, and I more or less was procrastinating on actually redoing the bench, doing the T-track and everything else. And I started doing the video. I have most of it recorded, which is why I'm doing the other half on the live stream. But I think 4 days ago, Tamar from 3x3 Customs had just put out an expanding mobile miter saw cart, and broke my heart. I definitely wish I had a better video already out on YouTube. Mine's is again like 1.5 years old. Didn't even have a mic and stuff back then, so not the best. But the thing that I did pick up from her, because originally I was going to use either a dowel or just a knob screw to kind of compress the rail system instead of adding the T-track to the side, which I am going to take that from her. She ended up actually routing in the groove into a piece of plywood and adding a metal T-track. But we're going to make our own T-track on the router table. But it's the same. I did take that from her. I think that's pretty cool. I wouldn't have thought about doing that. And she got some really cool pop-up casters I didn't even know existed. Definitely wish I knew about those. I might, probably rebuilt the cabinet and everything else, but my goal was actually re-updating the miter saw cart, adding a stop block, so I'm not just clamping boards to it constantly. And when the brackets came in, I knew it was time. It was just me deciding on when I was going to do it. All right, we're pretty much disassembled. We just have a few brad nails holding this together. So we're going to tap this bottom edge first. There we go. We're going to tap her loose up here. And then there's these staples holding it into the plywood. Only thing on this that we're reusing are going to be these longer rail pieces. Everything else is essentially junk. I do need to pull the nails out of these. Well, not junk, firewood. Where are my nail pullers? In the drawer where I put them. Because as a YouTuber, I put everything back. My shop has actually been a mess this last week and a half. I've been kind of just adding stuff to my shop tools. There's a couple of videos that are going to be out on Instagram probably in the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I cannot wait for you guys on YouTube to finally catch up. But I did a couple upgrades to my Palk style workbench, and then I made a custom Palk style cradle for my new table saw. And if we finish this up soon enough, I might show how that works out in the rest of the shop. This piece is trash too. I don't need to keep anything else. And we're good to go to the router table. All right, cool. And I have everything I need over there. I think because I'm going to be feeding towards you guys, I'll be in the way the least. If the camera's like over here, maybe bring this over here. No, that's too far away. Yeah, we're going to put you guys up here. All right, so what we got to do is actually route in the T-track into my pieces of 3/4 inch plywood. This was already set up from when I did the other side. So I just want to make sure we're still in the right place. You're going to be routing them into a piece of plywood that is a total of 1.5 inches. So I want the T-track to land roughly 3/8 of an inch, right, to make sure that we have that proper gap from the fence. And if we do, I can run the straight bit through first, and then we'll change it out for the T-track bit, so we can actually have a T-track in this piece of 3/4 inch plywood. Let me grab my Air Pro. And a good time for a cigarette. Anything else? Oh, power. Oh, that's what I meant to grab, my tape measure. And it's on the other side of the bench. There we go. Is that where I put the T-track at? Was it in the middle? Yeah, still looks good. Router's locked in. Appreciate you for joining in. Alright, that's the first pass. And all I'm doing is adding a groove, a 1/4 inch wide, dead center of my strips. I'm going to go down just a little bit lower, then switch to my T-track bit. I typically take my T-track, if it'll focus, without glaring. There we go. I typically take it from the veneer layer, that second layer, right to the top of that. So we're going to raise our bit up and then take our next cut. Now the next step is to change out our bit for our T-track bit. And of course, safety first, we're going to unplug the router. And currently our T-track bit is inside of my trim router. And where did I just put the wrench for my trim router? I am really good at putting stuff down. There we go. That is one thing I do like about the Flex router. It has a self-locking spindle. So I don't have to hold a button, which is really, really nice. Another really cool feature. Right now I currently have the spindle lock locked. So if you ever did accidentally try to power it on. Oh, not even in camera. There we go. But yeah, when the spindle lock is down, if you ever try to power it on, it just flashes. But then if you unlock the spindle, pretty cool. Nice little safety feature. Keeps me from sometimes hitting start when the spindle is still locked. Doesn't cause any harm to my bits or my router because it's a built-in safety feature. Alright, we're good. And if you guys have never made a T-track with your router before, this one's for a quarter 20 bolt. After you route in your straight groove or your dado through your piece, you just want to come and line it back up and have your router bit bottom out where your groove is. Beautiful. And then you're left with a beautiful T-track profile. And we're able to leave a significant amount of plywood on the top. So these are going to be really strong. Alright, that's it for the router table. I am going to need this bit later when I actually route in the T-track and the actual wings. I can actually go ahead and put this one back in this router because we'll use the straight bit first. And the fence hadn't moved, so that's good for when we get over there. All right. I'll pack this up later. And then we can head back over to the bench. All right, one of the next things I need to do is cut these to the proper length before I install them. I actually could do it afterwards. So I did on the other ones actually. But essentially these are already the same width as these 2x. So with them now facing the outside, all I have to do now is drill the hole through the side of this, and it'll set my T-knob. And for those of you who don't know how T-tracks work, just in case, this is a POC style flip stop. So when you're sitting there on your miter saw, your material butts up against here, you can flip it up to get it out the way. There's a little adjustment screw right there. So this actually butts up and squares against that screw so you get zero deflection. But how the T-track part works, there's a T-bolt. Fill focus. No, she doesn't like me. There we go. And that T-bolt can then ride inside of these tracks. Like so. Alright, and now they're really smooth. And I can always turn the knob to lock them down. So that being on the side of this will allow me to expand and lock in the wings wherever I want. And again, use my flip stop. Alright. So actually, I think I'm going to attach these now. And then I'll worry about cutting them to length. And what I want to make sure of is I have my T-track profile down here on the end. When I shoot staples through, I have to make sure I'm not shooting staples into my T-track profile. These those right there. And actually, to be safe, because I don't want anything to blow out. What are my margins? I have a 1/2 inch to each one of those shoulders. So I'm going to mark this a 1/4 inch every so often. And that way I know I'm not shooting too close to the center. Better safe than sorry in this case, because if I get a staple down into the T-track, there's not really a way to fix it without fucking up everything. But I also only needed 2 T-tracks and I made 3. So I do have an extra one. But I need to be perfect for like 10 shots each. So let's see. We're going to flush it up down at one end. We're flush. So far, so good. Hey, how you doing there? And what we're doing, we're making an expandable miter saw cart. Well, I'm upgrading my expandable miter saw cart. Essentially, I had extension wings on them. They were originally held up with the piano hinges. Piano hinges had a little bit too much slop in them. And then I hadn't put a T-track inside of this rail system to allow it to actually come out and lock down whenever I added my T-track. So I'm currently adding the T-track to the rails and then changing out my brackets for these folding shelf brackets that have a lot less play in them than piano hinges. And if you didn't see it right behind me, again, it's almost ironic. It actually hurts my feelings just a little bit. Tamar from 3x3 Customs had just put out her video on hers. I had built this design probably about a year and a half ago. And nobody else had any. Nobody had an expanding, foldable, collapsible miter saw cart. I pretty much took the April Wilkerson design and then added this little expansion portion here. Yeah, see, the extensions are pretty awesome. I definitely think it was a huge improvement. I came up with the idea probably about a year and a half ago, and probably about 2 years ago, the idea came from my style workbench that I built up here. This is a Polk style bench, but the ends expand and contract. So I took that idea and then brought it over to my miter saw, again, probably about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And again, funny enough, I was planning to update my video and make mine a little bit better because my last video when I did this was pretty bad. And then Tamar from 3x3 Customs had put her video out. And pretty much shattered my dreams. I didn't do it fast enough. And yeah, my video quality isn't quite as good. Nor do I have the following that she does yet. So eventually I'm going to get there. But I did pick up her idea because originally how I was planning to actually lock in my rails, because the rails were again just originally 2x2s that slid into a rabbited 2x4. This is just a 2x4 that has a rabbit. If the glare would go away. Damn it, that's annoying. Yeah, well, if the glare would go away, this is a 2x2 section with a rabbited edge, and then these just slid in there. I was originally just going to take a knob and a thread and with a bolt on it and kind of use that to crank down and lock in my rail system. But then I saw Tamar actually, she embedded a piece of she built her whole entire assembly out of 3/4 inch plywood, and then she did a torsion box thing on the inside and then layered a piece of 1/2 inch plywood on the bottom, and that's what she used to keep the rails from canting outward. The one thing I didn't quite like or wasn't sure about hers is she doesn't connect the two rails themselves together. So my worry is even once you lock them down, if you bump on one side, they'll pull unevenly. But that's neither here nor there. So what we're going to do, man, that's the first thing I did, honestly, was buy an expensive camera. Couldn't afford it, but it felt... That is very much true. I probably should be treating my film equipment like it is actually a part of my shop. Right now I'm just working off of like an old ring camera setup, but I definitely want to get like a gimbal, and I'm guessing I'm just using my phone as well. So I'm imagining if I actually had like an actual professional camera, it would like do all the balancing and stuff. Whenever I'm doing my actual YouTube videos, I don't get a glare though. I'm imagining it's probably just because the camera that this phone uses whenever it does the live stream, and it doesn't have an auto balance feature, or I don't know how to mess with it in settings. Yeah, pretty much. And yeah, that's what this is. Yeah, so instead of, going to go buy a T-track and getting embedding it into a piece of 3/4 inch plywood, which my other concern about hers is because it's embedded into a piece of 3/4 inch plywood and her rails are only 3/4 inch plywood, I kind of worry about the strength of it as you pull these out and they're canted halfway over. If the 3/4 inch plywood would snap, these are going to be backed by, again, a piece of 2x2 that I've been using this whole entire time. So 3/4 inch plywood with a T-track routed in it attached to the 2x2 gives you plenty of strength and gives you the ability to lock down both sides of your rails. And this will be one side. And once I do the other, I can then take a measurement in between here to see what size the plywood I need to put in here needs to be. Pocket screw that together, install that, and then I essentially have the rail systems back to how they were. I need to cut off some of this excess right here. And God, that glare is annoying. Definitely wish I knew more about computers. I lack in the tech savvy category. Pretty good at the nails and wood part, but once you delve into computers and you know platforms and editing, not my strongest suit. I'm definitely getting better, especially I have a lot of ideas I would like to share with a lot of people. Just gotta make the content enjoyable enough for to get everybody into it. Most people stream from phone. Yeah, see, that's one of the biggest issues. Actually, I can live stream for probably about 2.5 hours, maybe almost 3 before my phone dies. So yeah, that is actually one of the bigger issues that I do run into using the phone. And yes, the visibility again is going in and out. Occasionally it'll glare, sometimes it doesn't. I don't really know how to stop it though. I mean, I wish. Yeah, I don't really know how to stop it. And it does it randomly. I try to turn off my fan light. I could probably turn off my shop lights and just run off of the fan light. Maybe see how that goes. The fan light isn't bright though. Let's see what that looks like. It's darker, but it might not glare. You guys let me know. If this is too dark, I'll cut the shop lights back on, but I don't think it'll glare. You get your battery pack. I'm probably going to invest in the camera strictly for this lighting issue here because I just got lights up in the shop, recently ran the plywood and everything else, and yes, the glare has been something that's been killing me whenever I decide to do a live stream, so a proper camera is probably definitely in the works. Let's get set up to attach this one. I think leaving the lights on is better. It does look pretty, it's been a while since I haven't had those lights on or up. So definitely working in here, it definitely does look really dark. But that glare is something that truly pisses me off. I think it might be my white workbench though. Probably should have went with black. It's probably one of those things that YouTubers say all the time and I completely ignored. Or maybe a different color light. The autofocus in my settings. Are you talking about directly in my camera settings or like on the stream settings? Because retouch, effects, mute. Yeah, they don't give me any settings. And yeah, that's just dealing with chat. Oh, yeah, that's something I'll have to figure out later. Oh, in my camera. Yeah, see how bad I sounded? That's my tech savvy right there. Yeah, see again, I'm gonna get better. And yeah, I have to. I'm probably gonna look into that, and then probably do a test stream tomorrow because that is pretty annoying for me. I don't think I can change it while I'm streaming off my phone. Yeah, if I close my phone on the stream, I think the stream itself closes. So yeah, probably a test stream thing for me tomorrow. Because again, at this point, YouTube is a good bit behind Instagram and everything else, and there's several other projects I would love to show you guys without you guys having to wait, 2.5 months or whatever. So I will more than likely be going live again. Appreciate it. Oh, one blew through. Oh no, not two. I was actually doing pretty awesome until just now. Oop. So out of 25 staples, I have 3 that wanted to blow through. Not bad, I can set those. Nail punch. And man, right as you told me that we all can't be perfect. And then all this extra flaky stuff, I'm going to peel all that back because, again, don't want anything impeding the friction or the slide. We're going to give this a light sand. But anything that looks rough, you want to remove, and you want to make sure these staples, if you guys were not perfect like me, are down below the surface. Let's see, how long did I cut this? Thank you. All of the bench tops in my shop have bench dogs in them. Definitely was a great asset. 33. So how long are my rails? My rails are 32 and 5/8 inside of the carcass. And I'll cut both of these to the same length. I can't see the chat. Let me close that. I see the way I see it. Spend a little time messing through your camera settings. Definitely need to do that. And secondly, onto the bench dogs. Definitely a great system to have. I use bench dogs and T-Track for pretty much all my benches in here. And the simplest method I found to drill out bench dogs is to take a piece of pegboard and then every fourth hole, Use a center finding bit from a drill a whole bunch of pre-drilled holes in your 3/4 inch plywood, then come back with a Forstner bit that's 3/4 of an inch. You can use a drill press if you have one, just to make sure all your holes are plumb. And then you can come back and pretty much lay out all of your holes on your bench. You can use a full sheet of pegboard and do a whole entire bench at the same time. Or you can take like a 2x4 piece and make yourself a template. After you drill like 5 or 10 holes, you can start bench dogging as you work your way around the bench. Bonus tip, if you use that template as a router template, you get much better progress because everything's going plumb. So you can just plunge and then do your routing, plunge and kind of go hole to hole. And then after you do like a grid of like 9x9, they're 4-inch squares, so 12x12, you can actually just move it over to the next 2 holes, bench dog it, and then do your next. So it's a really good method to use. I like bench dogs, and again, instead of buying like the Parf guide or something, piece of pegboard is pretty good enough for me. It's pretty accurate as far as 4-inch on center, and all my holes are actually square, so I think it worked out pretty good. The only issue, mine holes are square. I did not use the router method on these. They're square, but all of them are not perfectly plumb, which isn't an issue. But sometimes when I drop a bench dog in, like they will be canted, like, going this way. So if I wanted to use them for a fence or like for a crosscut station, I can't. I do plan to come back with a router later on. I've actually done several videos on how I do bench dogs with pegboard. But again, my issue is a lot of those videos, like I think the first time I did it on a video was when I did this bench. But I've done 4 of the benches inside of my shop with pegboard. I've done my work truck with pegboard and videos, but again, the video is so old that like the quality of my video isn't the best. And it's been a long time since I needed to do bench dogs. And then the last time I built a bench was probably about like 5-6 months ago. So. And yeah, see, that's the beautiful part about the pegboard, because you don't even have to do all of it. You really can select whatever holes you want. I do 4 inches on center because that's the MFT standard, but you can do a solid row right here that's 5 inches off the edge of your bench, skip 10 holes, and now you're 10 inches over because every hole is 1 inch on center. So, you can kind of play around and do your own layout. You can do a diamond of bench dogs on your bench if you wanted to, because suppose you have like a 4x8 sheet, clamp it directly to your 4x8 bench, and then you kind of just pick whatever bench dog holes you want to drill. And once you pre-drill them, it's just trying to get them as plumb as possible and your transfer. So again, I recommend making a 3/4 inch plywood template and then using a router. I did all these by drill, by hand. So some of them aren't plumb. So I do plan again to come back with that router jig. That's probably a future video I plan to make, is actually making that router jig. And then I'll probably use that to plumb up all the holes on my bench in the future. Most definitely. Again, one thing I will say, the videos are a lot older. The shop itself was a mess. Like, I've been in here for probably about 2 years, 2.5 years now. And when I first started, you couldn't see from the front to the back of the shop. There weren't any lights. None of these benches, half the tools and stuff weren't in here. So like, I think as of like the last 7 to 10 months, I would say I've really settled into the spot. I have all my tools. I have electrical and stuff everywhere. And we're pretty functional. I build doors, cabinets, and pretty much everything else in here. Have to check it out. Yeah, that flush trim jig I've seen before for a router. A flush trim jig. You mean like with just a router bit, or what do you mean by a flush trim jig? Or like just making a platform base so you can like flatten off the edges of like dowels and stuff. These need to be 31 1/8. I'll cut both of these over on the miter saw. Thirty-one 1/8. And we'll do the same for here. Using 3/4 inch plywood platform, using the flush trim bit to follow the whole pattern. Oh yeah. Again, haven't made that video yet, but that's something I've been thinking about because again, when I use the pegboard, I'm essentially using it as a template, but I'm freehole drilling it with the drill. But again, if I use the actual template and I'm working off of my bench top, I know it's going to be 90 degrees. Well, as long as your router is plunging straight. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Probably going to end up doing that to clean up all my holes on my bench. The next thing we're going to do is give these a good sanding. Pretty nice. And yeah, that portable drill press from Milescraft, I thought about getting that. I have a larger drill press, but again, like the ability to take that to the bench is definitely nice. And I would like it for stairs actually, because I will not be bringing a drill press on the job site. And sometimes being able to drill at an angle accurately would be nice because I can set up a jig. And whenever I'm boring for balusters, if I know the stairs is 37.5, I can pretty much just set my rails, or if I made a jig, and then set my rail in there, I can just rest that Milescraft drill press and then plunge all my holes. And if I'm doing square mortars, balusters, I can drill a hole, then come back with a square chisel and finish them up. So like it's really nice to have on the job site. I've taken handrails and brought them back to my shop to actually drill them out. So I do want to get one of those portable drill presses just so I can do stuff like that on the job site. We want to be able to sand up pretty much everywhere that's actually going to make contact on the inside of our wings. All these Phillips screws, I'm not going to throw them away because I have a secondary problem of throwing stuff away. But now we have our upgraded rails from the original 2x2s. And they slide smoothly. Awesome. Now what I need to do is figure out what I need to do. How wide. I'm going to end up cutting a piece of 3/4 inch plywood in between here. And where's my piece of 1/2 inch ply? I had a piece cut. Here it is. What I'm going to do for the side that's actually the front, I'm going to take a piece of 1/2 inch plywood, staple it along the front rail, and that's essentially going to keep this running straight. But then I'm going to take a piece of 3/4 inch plywood, which I have the 2 pieces right here. These 2 pieces, one is going to get cut to fit back here, and then one is going to be up here as a bump stop, so it won't allow it to slide any further this way, but also keep these 2 rails in line with each other. And with this being 3/4 inch, it'll be able to ride over this piece of 1/2 inch plywood. Again, these are the upgrades that I didn't do in the previous wings. So like when I used to pull my old ones out, they had the ability to rack left and right. So by adding this, that'll hold everything in place. And then by using plywood, I don't need to do any weird notching like I had to last time. So what I want is these firmly pressed up against the sides. And then I can take a measurement and then probably subtract like a 1/16. And we're looking at 8 1/16. So I might just go 8. And then up here at the front, we should be looking at the same thing. 8 1/16. So yeah, we're going to go 8 inches on both these pieces of plywood and then drill in pocket holes. And these are quick cuts, but I'll swing this over to the miter saw just so you guys can see what I'm doing. I definitely want to get multiple dust hoses or hook up my miter saw to my big dust collector. And then that comes underneath. That way my Festool dust extractor will only get used for my sander and smaller tools, and I won't be switching it back and forth as much as I do now. So what I need is 8 inches on these 2 pieces of plywood. My stop block doesn't allow me to cut smaller pieces like that. What I typically do for small cuts, I just bring in my clamp here. That's at 8 inches. That's going to be, let's see, that's where I saw somebody using it for trim. And yeah, see, that's exactly where I use it. I was on a job site where a guy, he actually brought in his his tilt mortiser, which is pretty awesome. Would love to have one of those, but like, I wouldn't be bringing that to the job site for stairs. That's gonna be nice, man. Wanted to pop in, see what you got going on before why can I get back in bed. Hey, no problem, man. I go live pretty randomly actually, but I greatly appreciate you for popping in, and you guys enjoy your night. Let's see, we want an overall 8 inches. So we'll mark that at 8. And then what I'll do is spin this around. Bring my blade down. Make sure my piece is where I want it. And then I'll bring this piece up as a stop. And then bring the arm around to lock it in. And that can actually use a slight bump. There we go, smack dab on 8. Thank you, I appreciate it. Alright, the next step is to drill in pocket holes for these. Is this the bit that I have set for 3/4? And it is. So now we need to drill pocket holes in those two pieces, then get them installed. I might take a slight blade off both of these. It's enough room. Like that's the well, actually has more room up front. So no, actually I won't cut them. Alright, now we can assemble these. Get everything nice and flush. I don't have my proper pocket hole bit that is outside in my truck, and I don't feel like getting it. But I will make this one work. There we go. That's perfectly flush. And then we can bring out this one. And we want to do the same thing. I'm going to make sure she's flush to the back. and then also perfectly aligned. Alright, let me slide this back in there. And I can mark where the front of everything needs to be. And that is bottomed out. So there's going to be a piece of 3/4 inch plywood right there. And that's where this needs to go. Beautiful. She slides pretty awesome. Where did I put my chisel? I need to clean some of this off. Alright, now I need to switch over to some 7/8 inch staples and install this piece of 1/2 inch plywood. I forgot what I used the spacers. Uh, 7/8 inch staples. Let me just give her a slight gap. I'll just give her just a little bit of room for movement. She barely has any play, but she has great sliding action. A little bit of paste wax will go a long way. Actually appears this side up front is a little too tight. It's not bad, but she does snag a little bit right there. I'll be fine once I hit it with paste wax. Alright, but yeah, that's pretty much... Oh, last thing I need to do to the wings before I paste wax is drill my hole for my boat. So I know where my T-track is on the side of my wings. I need to transfer that mark up the side and then over here. Ugh. And then let's see, how far did I come back? And that will be the location for my hole for my knob for the T-track. So now I can take this out, drill these two holes, and then I will paste wax this whole assembly, prep the actual cart for the installation, and we probably will actually head over and start making these stop blocks. And these are 1/4-inch T-bolts, but I'm going to drill this out with a 5/16 drill bit. Just to make sure that my bolt lines up with the hole. Lines up with the T-track. Alright. Let's get all this paste wax You want to paste wax all up through the rails. This little piece we just put in, this 1/2 inch piece of plywood. You want to get all that paste wax. So those are going to be all the sliding surfaces that make contact. Nice thick old blob of paste wax. Let your hand heat kind of warm it up a little bit. I'll get it melting. And again, the goal is to coat everything that is going to make contact and slide across each other. So you want to get all up under here. This whole surface, the side over here. That piece of 1/2 inch plywood. Alright, that's everything inside the ring. Now I need to paste wax this. If you guys haven't used paste wax before any of your projects, I definitely highly recommend. One, for tools, keeps rust off. So any of your cast iron tabletops, bench planer, table saw, anything that's also going to have material sliding across it, your fences and everything else, paste wax makes that slide a lot easier. You know, you can almost have a fresh blade in your table saw sometimes, but have a lot of pitch and build up on your actual table saw top, and you think you need a new blade just because the material isn't sliding properly. And a lot of times it just needs a fresh coat of wax or any type of lubricant, whatever you guys feel you're comfortable using. I typically go paste wax. So all it takes is a quick buff on, and then you want to give it 15 to 30 minutes to actually acclimate and kind of bond to your project. And then you want to come back and buff it off. And that's also why we took the time to go ahead and hit it with some sandpaper. We sanded this up to 120 grit, so it's already nice and smooth. So that plus the paste wax will create an awesome sliding rail. And now I want to make sure everything is saturated nice and good. All these high traffic areas. And then we're going to let this sit. me grab a paper towel to clean off my hands. And then we'll make some rips and prep the cart itself for the install of the wings. All right. One of the other things that we need to do for the cart over here is add some braces on the side so we can actually mount our brackets. These need something solid to mount to, so I need to add some vertical blocking here to allow this to mount. I already have some pieces of plywood cut for it. We're going to staple this one directly to the front side of the cart, and then I'm going to measure for the spacing for the other cleat. Let me switch over my staples again. Alright, another thing I need to do is originally my miter saw cart, and this miter saw was pretty much stationary inside the shop, but I added a piece of 3/4 inch plywood here so I can actually slide my saw, in and out of the cart so I can take it with me to my job site. So that extra piece of 3/4 inch plywood, I need to add a piece of 3/4 inch plywood to the underside of my wings. So I need to rip a piece to 1.5 inches. And I'll just have that already ripped when we get to that point. And I did that at like 135. It's like 150. I should be good to go back to buffing off the wings. And we need 1.5 inches. All right, believe it or not, that's pretty much all the parts to actually making the expanding wings. I need to cut this to length and install this later. But before I do that, I want to delve into the next portion of this build, which is, where are they? These stop blocks. So again, this is a Ron Paulk style stop block. I got the idea from him. Essentially, just a block, a knob, and then an extra piece of 3/4 inch plywood. He likes to cut a dust channel down here on the front side, so whenever it's actually being used on your miter saw, any dust or debris just goes up underneath this channel, because this is about a 1/16 of an inch higher. This flat here helps it register flat onto your miter saw. He also added an adjustment screw right here. So by tightening and loosening these nuts right here, you can actually increase or decrease your space off of the block. And then whenever you're actually using it, it butts up firm and actually meets that screw right here. So I'm going to show you guys how I kind of go through the process to get this done. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. All I have to do after that is the assembly and putting everything onto the miter saw. So I kind of actually gotten to several stopping points. This one already has both holes drilled and the dado cut in the bottom. Actually, all of them have the dados cut in the bottom. So I guess where I'm picking up from is drilling my 2 holes and then doing my notches on the side. So we're gonna head over to the drill press and bandsaw to get those laid out. But first, where did I go for this hole? How do I always lose my tape measure? There we go. So we came back an inch and an eighth. Oh, I guess center into that groove. So never mind. I'm actually about to just head over to the drill press, drill these holes, and then drill these. They're all a 1/4 inch bit. So let me actually grab my 1/4 inch bit out of my other drill, and we'll head over to the bandsaw. I mean, drill press first, then bandsaw. All right. Oh, this one's 5/16. I need a 1/4 inch bit. All right. Now, this one hole I will say was pretty sketchy. I think this is how I did it, and that's the fence settings. Was it? And that was my fence settings. That hole is roughly 5/16 from the back. So what I'm doing is making a mark roughly 5/16 from the back side. And then my fence is already set up for the how far I actually want it off of the edge. I will say this is one of the not so fun cuts, but it's actually not too bad. Alright, those are those holes in the back. Now I need my hole in the center. So I'll loosen my fence. And bring it so the drill bit is in the center of my groove. Actually, it's probably better to go this way. I can get it somewhere that way so I can have more support. This is a 2-inch block, so let's mark it dead center at 1. And then what I'm going to do is get my fence dialed in. All right, now we set up for that one. Two things. That depth stop is too deep. That's good. And then I kind of want to drill through my piece of AZAC that I have in here as a spline. Alright, and those are the two scary holes that need to get drilled in the stop block. The next step is to head over to the bandsaw and make our notch cuts. And then by that point, we should be ready to almost buff off everything that we paste waxed. There we go. And again, at this point, we're pretty much at, here. So the next thing I want to do is set up my bandsaw cuts. which I kind of already had set up with this one. So what I want is with my fence locked down, and that looks like the appropriate stop. Take these out. And there you go. I could reset up the stops, but I don't really think I need to. I'm just going to kind of eyeball it and lock down the fence. All right. And now we have our stops, our guides, I do need to glue in these pieces of AZAC into here, and then I do need to make the actual flip stop portion. And I probably won't assemble these. I do need to get some longer screws, but I'll show you guys how they actually go together. So that's pretty much it for the bandsaw. We can actually head over to the bench. And actually what I probably will do, what did I rip this to? I might just make some more of these. These are 2 inches wide and 5 3/16 long. Scrap piece of plywood do I have to use for that? These are one of the cutouts for when I was making the Park style bench. So this will actually do to make those. So we'll move the camera over here. I'll rip this down. This piece isn't perfectly straight, so I'm going to have to take a skin pass, pretty much not going the full width Trying to take just a little bit of material just to kind of get a straight edge. All right, I think that will work. And what did I say this was? 5 3/16. Now the next thing I need to do is go over to the bandsaw so I can set up stops for these two relief cuts. And then the rounded over profile is just something I kind of, free-handed. So I'll probably freehand something on these and then hit it with a little bit of sandpaper. And before I go too far, looks like that one sit over there. I need to clamp these perfectly flush to the front and back, and then drill a 1/4-inch hole through here into this piece. And then when I cut that relief right here, what that's going to end up doing for me is, one, allowing it to actually rotate and pivot on that bolt without rubbing the bottom of the bench. And it's going to also, again, give me dust relief. So any type of sawdust that gets built up while I'm cutting is able to brush right up underneath. So let me grab that 1/4-inch drill bit out of the drill press. And we're going to make those incisions next. This one's a left. This next one should be a right. Use this piece. So we want flush to the bottom and flush to the back. And then once you get a little bit of clamping pressure on it, you can kind of adjust it. And again, what we're looking for is, it's hard to see, just rotate. We have them flush to the bottom and flush to the back side here. So now I can come back with my 1/4" drill bit and transfer a mark all the way over. So now when I run my bolt through, they're going to align with each other and be flush at the bottom. And again, I'm not sure if I drilled all these holes at the same place, so I'm actually going to mark these with each other. We're going to mark this one 2 and 2. I wonder if I can do this without clamping. Always those intrusive thoughts. But I think I can do it. At least we get it marked. That wasn't too bad. Alright, now let's head over to the bandsaw so we can set up to copy these notches on all 3 of these pieces. So this is the back notch by where the bolt is. I'll stop all the way back here. Alright, a little bit of sanding. And now, I'm not going to put all these together. You take a bolt, you run it through your stop. You do need to drive an additional screw right here on the side. You put a nut on this back side, put another nut here for spacing. You drive that in together, and then you lock down your screw on your other nut on this side. Then again, you have a flip up stop. I need to get some longer bolts, which is what I'm going to be doing tomorrow. I had enough to make the one. But that's all the stop block stuff. I do need to glue in these little pieces of AZAC, but I just do that with some CA glue and a few spritz. So all of these are done. We probably can go in and buff off the excess paste wax and then maybe get into the installation. We've been live for probably about 2 hours now. And I want to check and see where my battery is. It's actually looking like we're still good. We're at like 32%. So let me grab a rag and we can buff off the excess paste wax. We can go ahead and assemble that other wing and get ready for installation. We're currently upgrading my miter saw cart. I built a miter saw cart probably about a year and a half ago with expanding wings. So it's foldable, collapses down to about a 30-inch cabinet, and the wing supports are about 30 inches long, but they extended outward to give you about like a 6 or 7 foot cut capacity. And I'm currently adding T-track to the side of the rails, changing out the hinges that I originally had on it. They were originally supported by some piano hinges. Now I'm using these folding shelf support brackets. They work a lot better. They're a lot sturdier once they're fully attached, so I don't get any racking or anything inside of the wings. And I think they can hold a bit more weight too. So we've just been going through the whole entire upgrade process, from disassembling the old wings, how to route T-track on the router table, paste waxing the rails, and now we're about to put everything together. I just finished paste waxing it. I made some stop blocks while I was letting the paste wax, sit up for about 30 minutes. This paste wax is going to help everything slide nice and smoothly. Alright, let me put in the bolts. So these just go into the holes that I drilled on the side. And then we can add one of our knobs to it. And then we grab our whole entire rail assembly. We rotate it and make sure our T-track bolts there we go. Oop, let me slide it all the way out. And then just like that, you have an expandable miter saw cart wing. Beautiful. Next up is to mount it over to the saw, and then we can route in our T-track along the backside. And that's probably going to be all we do tonight. The next thing I need to do is cut some pieces of 3/4 inch plywood to actually add to the underneath side. I think these brackets are 16s, so we'll cut like 18-inch pieces, give or take. So we can go 16.5. And now we need to staple these on. And then we can actually mount the shelf brackets to the cart, then mount the wings themselves to the cart, and then we can go inside the fine tuning and adjustments. Alright, we're now finally on to the installation portion. Now we officially don't need this anymore. Couple things that are extremely important during this installation is one, that my brackets are perfectly flush to the top of where my current rails are. So what I'm going to do to ensure that this will do is just take a piece of 3/4 inch plywood and screw it down like so. That'll pretty much create a lip that my brackets can run all the way up to. There we go. There's the square. All right, now I need the proper spacing for over here so I can actually mount the next bracket. And that spacing from edge to edge is 13 and an eighth. All right. Now I can undo these screws. And I can drop in the wing now. All right. We're going to drive the first one in. Make sure we're perfectly flush here on this back corner. Yeah, I might actually need to put this inside of the impacts. Oh, there's a staple right there I need to drive in. Glad I saw that. That would have kept it from actually going flat. Beautiful. Whew. There we go. Next thing I want to do is route in the T-track on the other side. Let me check my phone now. Yeah, we might have enough time. All right, just like I did over here on the right-hand side, I have a T-track routed into the back section of the fence. The wings. Now I need to route in the T-track over here on this side. I guess I might as well stand up the camera. Probably be the best way to get visual on it. I'm going to slide the miter saw. I'm not going to slide it back. That should work. Now we need to set the proper depth for the router bit. We're going to do this in 2 passes. Actually, I don't forgot. Before I do that, I need to add this last piece of the wing right here. What is that, 3.5? Make this quick table saw rip. And this needs to be, 3.5. I do need to screw that off real quick. Because I'm going to route all of that at the same time. So we want to make sure we're flush along the backside. Bring in the clamp. And then I can drive in screws from underneath. All right, now I'm good to route in the T-track. I'm still at 24%. Bet. All right, first pass down. All right, let's change out the bit. And just like that, we now have both sides of the miter saw installed and calibrated. I had a couple other small things I need to do, like cutting in the dust hose in the back, dropping the cord and stuff back through there. But now I have an easy folding and locking miter saw wing. It's a lot more stable. And when she's fully up and supported, I can undo a couple knobs and expand out the capacity of my miter saw. I think I have about 6.5 feet from the blade to the edge of this. And then with my Palk style stop block, I can bring this into any one of my T-tracks. Get it aligned. Again, this isn't fully assembled because I need a longer bolt. But you'll have your lefts and your rights. They slot down in there. Wherever I have the miter saw position, you'll be able to slide boards all the way across and it'll be in front of this. Whenever you want to use a stop or don't want to use a stop, you flip it up out the way, flip it back down when you want to use it, and you can lock it down with a twist of a knob. But yeah, longer bolts are the next thing for this. And then I can put together the other 4 that we assembled or cut all the parts for. Yeah, if you guys have enjoyed this, let me know down below. Subscribe to the channel. Leave me a like, comment, etc. This is, again, an idea that I had for expanding miter saw wings. Probably, again, about 1.5 years ago. Or actually, before I get off, let me show you guys. It really expanded, but I forgot I did not lock in the knobs. Yeah, let's say we lock this one in way out here. Let's put you guys all the way back here so you guys can see it. From wingtip to wingtip, we are looking at a total of 12.5 feet. I think that's a pretty solid miter saw cart. I'm gonna give you guys a quick close up and then I'll show you guys how I pack it up and put it away. Again, T-tracks inside of the rail system. T-track routed into the backside of the wings. We have rails installed in here so the saw can be slid in and out and brought onto the job site. And again, just one more wide view as I pack her up and put her away. Simple twist of some knobs. The rails slide in nice and easy. And a quick click of the levers. And my miter saw can be pushed all the way back there in that corner. So it's pretty nice to be able to take, again, a compact solution like this, but then expand it out to essentially a full miter saw station with 6-foot supports on either side of the blade. If you guys have enjoyed, again, you guys definitely let me know down below. Smash that like button, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys on the next live stream. Peace.